Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is perfected in us. By this we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit. And we have seen and do testify that the Father has sent his Son as the Savior of the world. God abides in those who confess that Jesus is the Son of God, and they abide in God. So we have known and believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness on the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment. And whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. We love because he first loved us. And this is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So John writes to us an interesting passage here, because the people in the Old Testament would have told you that some people have actually seen God. You have Moses that walks by and sees the back of God. You had people that followed columns of smoke and fire where God resided to lead them to the promised land. There are different times when God seems to appear to people in various forms, and so you might find it odd that John would say that no one has ever seen God. But what he means here is that in all of human history, there has never been an expression of the love of God for his people like there is in Jesus Christ. This is God looking down upon us and loving us so much that he would come down to be one of us and to be with us and to go through all of the human experiences and continue to love us no matter what we might put in his path, no matter what we might do to talk him out of loving us. He gets through all of life and then on through torture and execution and death. And he even comes back from that to continue to love us and show us the way. We have never in human history before seen the expression of the love of God for us like we do in Jesus Christ. He says that if we are to go on to be perfected, love has been perfected among us in this, that we have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. See, if God is love, then God has perfected in us when we are like him in this world. John Wesley talked about this. He called it going on to perfection, where we would totally put aside selfishness and love of ourselves and serving ourselves, and instead replace that with love of God and love of our neighbor. We are called to be like God, and God is love. On this Mother's Day, I felt led to make my sermon more of a testimonial word this morning. I don't do a lot of those, but I felt compelled to share a bit about my story and how God has used moms to fit into my story and show me what love looks like. First, my grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mom, died before I was born. I never got to meet her, but my grandfather lived with us for most of my childhood. He passed away when I was in my sophomore year of college, but until then, we'd he lived in our house with us for most of my childhood. And so I got to talk to him a lot, heard his stories. And so often, his stories included my grandmother that I never met. But over time, hearing my grandfather's stories gave me the first love story that I ever learned. He so loved my grandmother, and the way he talked about her and shared about his life with her with such reverence, that it truly is long before I knew a Shakespeare story or I ever saw a movie or a book of any kind about love, I learned love stories from my grandfather and my grandmother, purely from hearing my grandfather talk about her. And others who got to know her would share similar experiences of how much she loved them and they loved her. But really, it was amazing to watch this man talk about this woman who had so inspired him and so encouraged him and had so loved him, and he loved her in return. So pretty early on, I knew that whatever they had, that's what I wanted. And they were the gold standard. The grandmother on my mom's side, I did get to know. She and my grandfather lived in Rutherford, New Jersey. So pretty frequently, we would hop on the New Jersey Turnpike from Philadelphia to Rutherford, New Jersey, and visit up there. My mom is one of 9 kids. We did the math one day and figured out that my grandmother was pregnant for about 18 solid years. We began to wonder if she even knew what was causing it. So who knows? But they had this amazing large family. Astonishingly enough, they all get along. Now, if they don't get along at some points, they never let any of the grandkids see it because they all seem to get along really, really well. But this all came from my grandmother. So she seemed to have this capacity to love people so much. And, I often wondered, after your 5th kid, 6th kid, 7th kid, when you have your 7th kid and you have 2 more after that, I begin to wonder, do you begin to diminish your ability to love all these people? Can you pay attention to that many people and care for them that much? Well, I don't know if I could. I'm overmatched by the 2 that I have. But she had a way to love all 9 of them. And not only that, but whenever we would visit, there'd be other random people there too. It seems all 9 would bring their friends over. And then there were grandkids beginning to appear, and then they would bring friends over too. There were easily dozens of people in her house, and it wasn't that big. But there were dozens of people in that house at all times, and she loved all of them. If she could have been pregnant for 25 years, she may have gone for it. I don't know. But she loved all of these kids and all of these grandkids and all of their spouses and girlfriends and random friends that came along. In hindsight, it would have been easy for any random person to just kind of walk in and sit at the table and start eating, because you just assume someone knew them. But she had just so much space in her heart for so many people. And she never got tired of it. Everyone in the house, you could check on them, make sure they were eating enough, sleeping enough, had enough space to stay in, or they were wearing enough clothes. Because, in New Jersey, you wear more clothes than you do in Florida. I don't know if any of you had the experience of getting ready to go to school in the snow in the morning. You have to, I don't know how you did it if you had this experience, but you get the bags in the produce section, right, for your vegetables and stuff. We would get those and put them on our shoes to get your boots to slide on over your. Did anyone else have that experience? Yeah. So we had 4 of us to get ready for school in the morning. This lady had 9 kids to put the bags on and the boots on and get them out the door, and then get them back into the house and get the boots all off. That all would have, at least our 4 would have snow on them that would then be put on the heat vent on the floor, so they would all melt and create a huge pool. And so she did double plus 1 of that every single day and never got tired of loving all these people. I think her heart was like a clown car. There was room for more people to just keep on coming out of there. over and over and over again. So my grandmother taught me that God did something in her to create space for more and more people. And if ever she were to come to a place where she said, all right, sorry, that's one too many, we all would have been astonished, because that is not who she was. She was always willing to accept one more and one more and one more. And that seemed to be so close to the heart of God. To my grandmother's dying day, she would make rosaries. She was Catholic. She would make rosaries and send them to prisoners that were in jails, prisons throughout New Jersey. And now, say what you ever want or what you believe about Catholics and about the rosary, but to her dying day, all of her kids had then moved out of the house. Occasionally someone would come back and there'd be some grandkids around, but to her dying day, she was finding more and more space for more and more people, even prisoners around the state. She was making room in her heart for them. She never stopped making space for more people in her heart. And through her, God showed me Jesus. So then there's my mom. Now, many of you have met my mom. She is a frequent. She frequently comes when I tell her I need help with something at the church. My mom would often drive here 3 hours to help me with it. They were here decorating for Christmas. They come for stuff here and there, so you probably have met my mom and dad. My mom is so astonishing to me because none of her accomplishments or her victories in her life ever seem to make her feel as excited as the things she sees her kids accomplish. Until there were grandkids. It seems their accomplishments are way better than any of her kids' accomplishments. But the reason is that her grandkids actually are accomplishing better things than her kids ever did, so that could be part of it. But she has this astonishing ability to put aside any of her victories and accomplishments, because she just is so excited to cheer for us or to root for us, to pick us up if we fail or if we lose. Long after we'd all moved out of the house, she still let our trophy case stay in this place of prominence in their living room. Eventually, it found its way to the garage, but it was there for a long time after we were all gone. My mom had this ability to see her family as herself. It's hard to see where my mom ended and our family began. Her ups and downs were our family's ups and downs. There was one time, a few years back, when some of our siblings, we had this falling out in our family, and it was really sad. Of course, I came to the rescue because I'm the pastor guy. I do counseling and stuff. I can figure this all out. I'll fix it. And I made it worse. So, we seemed to be in a bad place, and we'd never really seen that before in our family because we were always so close-knit. Well, my mom wasn't going to stand for it. So it took her over a year and some months to quietly, patiently, little by little, make a phone call, send a letter, send an email, post on Facebook, doing little things over this year and a half, almost 2 years, to gradually help us overcome these things that we had done or said that hurt each other's feelings. And any of us can tell you that we are in a good place now and we're better than we were before because my mom willed us back together and would not stand for us to not see ourselves as the gift that we could be to each other. And God showed me Jesus in my mom and showed me that whatever your disagreements are, it is worth the effort to try to overcome them. It's more important to have the relationship than it is to be right. And so she showed me Jesus over and over and over again. There's other moms I know that, sadly enough have had their marriages come to an end and have had to go on being a mom without the support of a spouse. All my grandparents and my parents have been together this whole time, and despite whatever we might do to cause them frustration and stress, they are still all together, and we count that a huge blessing. Susan's parents as well are still married, and so we have not seen the relationships break up like some have, but I have seen this happen to friends of mine, and God has shown me Jesus Christ in these moms who find ways through the disappointment, the discouragement that came through their marriages coming to an end, and continued to, no matter how bad they were feeling or how frustrated they were feeling or angry they were feeling, they never stopped making sure that their kids knew that their mom was there for them and loved them and cared about them and counted their heart as one with their kids' hearts. The amazing gift that I have been given in my life is being married to Susan, who, it's funny, when our kids were born, first you have 9 months of basically this parasitic relationship between your kid and your mom, right? The kid takes energy and nutrients and gives nothing, but takes and takes and takes. And it's like a little parasitic relationship with the mom until then the kid is born. There was still a little bit of parasitism going on, but Susan and I developed what we called the blob stage. And our kids at first would just sort of sit there. And you're kind of excited for them to do something, and they just do nothing, and they just sit there. Occasionally you have to change a diaper, which is pretty exciting. And they would cry, and they would eat. Other than that, like the blob stage, they would just sit there. But what was so remarkable to me was, and Jenna, for as wonderful as she is now, she cried for the first 6 weeks of her life constantly. Maybe she just spent all the trouble then and has nothing left to get, There were these monitors in the church where we went that had, you could flash the number of the kid in the nursery. Everyone knew Jenna's number. It was 123. Every Sunday, 123 would pop up on the screens before the sermon even started. Susan and I would look at it and go, and one of us would go get her. It was pretty remarkable. But through all that, whether it be the blob stage or the crying, or when Susan moved a bed into the floor of Jenna's nursery to just sit there while she cried, to see the way that her heart was knitted together with this kid was truly astonishing to me. And I know that I'm a way better dad because I watched Susan be an amazing mom than I would have been otherwise. I learned most of what I know about being a dad from watching Susan be a mom, I think. And she did this astonishing job just connecting to I hate to call them a blob, but the blob stage. She was connected to them in a way that that was so astonishing. And I just felt I had this gift of getting to watch her do that. And God showed me Jesus every single day in Susan. On top of that, Susan is so committed to her kids having a good mom that it overflows into other kids. Most days, there are more than just our kids at our house. And there are lots of kids that actually jokingly call Susan mom sometimes. So there's that, but every day she gets herself up, gets stressed, goes to work after getting everyone off to school. Fortunately, we don't have to do the bag boot thing. But then she arrives at work where she is a school social worker. But not just at a school, she actually works at the Hillsborough County Courthouse, where she helps to keep kids who have been removed from their parents' homes for some kind of domestic violence or domestic situation of neglect or whatever. She helps those kids stay connected to the school system. Because one of the first things to go when a student is removed from their home is any attention to homework or going to school or that kind of thing. So it's her job to follow up with students when they're removed from their home. And so every day, Susan sits in a courtroom with a judge and other people around and just watches case after case come through where children were removed from their parents' home. If there is work to do at Susan's job every day, it's because something went tragically wrong in that kid's life. And so she leaves the house every morning knowing that she is going to a place that will break her heart every single day because she wants those kids to have a mom who makes a home for them and who loves them and is there for them. And she does what she can to offer her skills and her gifts to help those kids have some kind of normal something in their life. But I look at what Susan does every single day. Not only having 2 kids and sometimes 3, that's a joke, you get that on the way home, but she also does this job where she leaves every day knowing it will break her heart. And Jesus left eternity, stepped into this world knowing full well we would break his heart. And we would execute him to get rid of him. And God showed me Jesus in Susan every single day. And so John's letter here talks to us about love. And when we find ourselves in one of those phases, right, where we haven't prayed in a while, haven't read the Bible in a while, haven't been in a small group, haven't served, haven't given, haven't done evangelism in a while, whatever we might have done to neglect our discipleship, the way we see God begins to change, doesn't it? We see God as this person who's disappointed in us, who looks at us as not having done enough, not having been enough. And we question whether or not we should not do some things to fix our life up before we can pray again, or read the Bible again, or go to church again, or go to a small group again. And we can see God as this more and more distant, disapproving parent than as the person that he really is, which is someone who loved you so, so, so much that he stepped out of eternity into this world to be Emmanuel, God with us, to be with you and with me. So, I don't know what your experience was with your mom, with your grandmother, great-grandmothers. Maybe you knew them, maybe you didn't. Maybe they were kind to you, maybe they weren't. Maybe they showed you what it should be like to be a good mom. Maybe they didn't. And while there's not a whole lot we can do about that now, what we can do is to hear the scriptures that remind us that God is love. And if we are to be like him, the world has never seen anything like him before Jesus came along. And as we work to become like Jesus, we will have a greater capacity to love God and love others the way that he loved us. What we can do is we can begin to create a generation of future moms who will know what it's like to have someone care for them and love them and show them how they can be the kind of mom that will show others how to love for generations to come. Friends, the hope of the world is Jesus Christ. Do you realize that? We live in a world that's increasingly sensitive to making sure we don't insult someone else and tell them that their religion is not as valuable as ours, or as right as ours, or as correct as ours, or as effective as ours. And what happens to a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist, an atheist that's different than me? I don't know. For some people, it might be a very similar journey. But what I know is that in the history of the world, we have never seen an expression of the love of God for his people like we did in Jesus Christ, who stepped out of eternity into this world to be one of us and to be with us. If we're going to be the hope of the world the way God intends, then we will be like Jesus. If you're a Muslim, I think you'd be better off if you're a lot like Jesus. If you're a Hindu, I think you'd be better off if you're a lot like Jesus. If that's bad in the Hindu system and the Muslim system, then I'm okay. Well, I think the world is helped every time anyone, no matter where you're from or what kind of worship community you're a part of or what family you're from, whether your mom was nice to you or not, whether your family was nice to you or not, whether you were adopted or lived your whole life with a family that stayed together and never got divorced, whatever it is, the world needs more people to be like Jesus. And that is the hope of the world. We can't fix what's happened before. But what we can do is make sure that the Church of Jesus Christ is known for producing people that sure do know how to love others and sure do know how to love God, because they are a whole lot like Jesus. So I don't know what your limits are. Not sure how much love, how many people that ask for you to love them is one too many. But wherever your limit is, the world needs you to push it, to add one more, and add one more, and add one more. There are plenty of kids, plenty of people around that need us to have an ever-increasing capacity to love God and love our neighbor. And if you don't feel like you've increased your capacity lately, that's all right. Let's work on it now. Do some reflection. Think about what it would take for you to develop an increasing capacity to love God and love others a little bit more than you do now. Because John is calling us to go on to perfection. Not to hit a point where, hey, look, I've loved all these people. Can I get a break here? Okay, with the first 13 kids, okay, fine, but 14, I'm sorry. That is not the heart of God. That is not the Spirit of Jesus Christ. The Spirit of God calls us to be more like Him. And we've never seen anything like Him like we do in Jesus Christ. If you will do a little more work today to be more like Jesus, to expand your capacity to love God and love others, you will change your life. You will change the lives of the people around you. And friends, if we make a habit of that, we may just even change the world. Let's pray together.